Would you rather have the magical effect of always being enlarged or always being reduced? So this is when...
As a man, I can answer this already.
As a woman, I can answer this for men.
This is why I asked this question. You're going to deliver. So this is like when you have like spells or magical effects that would do either, not just like would like, you know, in general. It's when it happens, you don't get a choice to choose enlarge, reduce. You're always, the one you pick is the one you always get from here on out.
Enlarge. Enlarge, because you get like bonuses and shit. Like for D&D mechanically, enlarge. However, if you could reduce smaller than small size, if you go down to like the size of an ant, you get up to crazy shit.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
It doesn't let you go that far, right?
Yeah.
So the mechanics make kind of the default answer.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Large size better than small size, but I'm not sure it's better than diminutive or tiny or any of these other ones that we used to have before.
Yeah, it's fair. Because I was gonna go say I would do reduce, just as like for funs and shits and giggles, because there's a lot of weird shit you can get up to when you're a tiny size.
Yeah, because you're harder to hit.
Yeah.
You can hide easy. You can like get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So if you're a small size creature, if you're a fairy, for example, or a halfling, maybe reduce.
Yeah, it's fair. So I guess it's dependent on...
Yeah. So if you're medium-sized, the probably most reasonable thing is to just always enlarge. But if you're small size already...
Yeah, because if you're small size already, enlarge will just bring you up to medium.
Yeah, or medium just takes you down to small. Like, who gives a fuck?
So it's like,
who
cares? So I think it's if you're going to be like a large difference between one or the other is when I would make a decision.
Okay, although, hold on, flip it though. Real life, if you could get 3 inches taller or 3 inches shorter, which one would you do?
Shorter.
Casey?
Taller.
I'm a tall girl.
Yeah. And I am not a short, but like I could easily have 3 inches. I would take. Never mind.
You know what? If you know how to use 3 inches, you know how to use 3 inches. This is not a Giants episode, by the way.
Shit.
I'm going to be over here.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome back to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get. Today we're continuing our discussion on Dungeon Master tips in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, because we know that everyone listening loves a good tip.
Sabotage!
Wow!
Oh man, I'm Megan, and with me are Adam and Casey, and this episode is called Magic Items, things to make magic things magical.
I'm sorry, I discovered that nobody pre-reads the blurbs, so I can put whatever I want. There's always a surprise. And I fucking got Megan.
As you're reading, your eyes get bigger, like, what am I saying?
You know what? That's professionalism in a nutshell.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, we're going to cover part of one of our discussions on magical items and how you make them feel as important as they should be.
Okay, before we get started, I want to ask, what was your favorite magic item that you've ever seen in a D&D game? Let's roll initiative.
Deal.
Red.
Mine's pretty easy.
Whoa, aggressive.
I rolled a 16.
I got a 1. All right.
I have to say mine's the Sunblade.
Really? I didn't think you liked it.
I mean, I have a tattoo of it on my chest.
Yeah.
Weird, fun anecdotal story. Thanks, internet. There's a guy at the liquor store that I go to on a regular basis who now recognizes me as the girl who plays D&D because I noticed he had a D&D tattoo on his arm. I pointed it out one time. Mm-hmm. We talked about D&D for 2 minutes, and now he just recognizes me every time because I'm a female who talked to him about D&D. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the only reason Dan knows your name.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess I told him at one point I have the Sunblade tattooed on my chest, and, that's my D&D tattoo that I have. And he's like, well, that's really cool. Anyways, I was at the liquor store tonight on my way here, and he was there. I didn't recognize him at first. Walked up with my roll, saw the tattoo. I'm like, oh, hey. He's like, oh, yeah, you're the girl who plays D&D. And I'm like, yeah. Hi, nice to see you again, XYZ. And then he's just like, you're the one with the Sunblade tattoo. And you're like, right, the tattoo, correct? And I was like, yeah, but it's on my chest. So I can't whip it out whenever I want to. And he laughed. He's like, oh, we're just not that close yet. And I was like, ah! I was like, I don't I'm hitting on you because I'm never read it.
He's shooting his shot.
Anyways, that's my favorite magical item.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Passed his charisma check.
Yeah. I should have thought of this ahead of time. I don't know. Right now, I have the Dread Helm, which I feel like is a low key badass thing, especially with art. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like pretty scary, but also awesome.
Kyle and I each chose it for our one magic item in a one shot that we did.
Really?
Yeah. So and we were both able to become enlarged, which ties right into the cold open. So we were these two big guys with these big glowing red eyes in the Dread Helm.
Yeah.
Just for this
badass.
one shot, it was so much fun.
Was that the one where I was playing a small character?
Yeah, you were Ozma.
Oh, yeah, I was Ozma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good times.
That'd be my pick.
Good times.
I want to say the deck of many things, but I won't. I think my favorite, unique thing that I've ever handed out, because we've done a lot, and I've talked about a lot of magic items over 270 some odd episodes. But there was one that you got a shield that was like a tiki mask, but it was massive for your necromancer. But it floated 8 inches off of your arm so that you could still have your hands free.
Yep.
And so you could bring your arm up as if you were holding a shield, and you just got a bonus to AC. There was nothing else to it, right? It was just a floating tiki mask shield. It was really cool and really flavorful. And every time that I think of Acra, I think of the skull face, like the wearing her dead master's skull on her head, and then this tiki mask. In my head, she also has robes, although that rarely happened in the fucking game.
Yeah, I mean, if she had them on, they were open and flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
It was just the way things were.
These are my magical wind robes.
She
Even
was
though there's no
always-
wind, it's just still flapping out there. Yeah.
But it was always like she was rushing to the door first thing in the morning, and it's just flapping behind her.
Well, you gotta every time you go around a corner, it has to whoosh like a cape,
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that it would be really cool. We have all sorts of magic shields, but wizards need their hands free, and you had so many wands and shit as well to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I thought it was really fun to make that magical, but just because it floated. That was the thing it did, right? I don't know. I like that. That was interesting, and I wish we saw more stuff like that.
Yeah, and it was the one kind of loophole to give wizards or straight spellcasters the ability to have a shield where it doesn't fuck them up mechanically.
Yeah. Okay, we were also playing in tier 4 at that point as well, so I was comfortable being here, have an extra AC or 2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't really need it anyway because she was fucking destructive.
Yes.
But it probably did save her life many times.
Yes. So.
I killed you, so.
Okay.
And vice versa.
It was a mutual suicide off the cliff.
A mutual deafening. All right. Before we get distracted any further, let's cut to an info break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on player options in 5th edition. For all those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. If you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This week on the It's a Mimic public channel, we have the next episode of Bring Out Your Undead, where 3 of the most frightening ladies you've ever heard of peer into the darkness to see if they're afraid of shadows. And on Thursday, Tyler and I sit down to finish off the second part in our campaign builder discussion on escalation in Dungeons & Dragons. The first part was us laying out our expectations and the guidelines which will follow. This episode is going to focus more on the dynamic, complicated encounters as we force our players to jump out of the frying pan and into the fire. Also, as a quick heads up, I'll be out of town for the next handful of weeks, so all of the episodes are going to be posted far in advance. They're already edited, but what that means is that any shoutouts that get added at the last minute or timetables that have last minute adjustments are going to have to wait. Everything will be locked in until the middle of June. But for now, let's jump back into the episode.
All right, as always, before we get started into the meat and potatoes of this episode, we always like to start with some basics. So let's review the different types of magical items and or treasures technically that you can gather within the D&D realm that are rules as written in the DMG. So obviously you have your 4 basics such as coins, gemstones, art objects, and magical items. So coins, which is as it sounds, is the currency of money in D&D. You can have gold, copper, silver, electrum, platinum pieces.
Yep.
Money. Great.
Money.
Money! Gemstones are similar to the currency, but are just small, lightweight, and easy to carry gems that have a worth of their own. There is a table that helps with this within the DMG to kind of determine what cost each gemstone gives you.
I honestly ignore that completely.
Yeah, you're like...
Yeah.
This amethyst is worth...
That is exactly my problem, is I am not at all aligned with chakras and shit. So, like, when it comes to
I can
people...
tell.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't know the difference between most gemstones. I know
Yeah.
the big ones. I can do sapphire, emerald, ruby, that kind of shit.
Fair enough.
But when we get past amethyst and topaz and we get into, like... See, I can't even fucking think of one. Like, I'll get wacky and go pearl. Like,
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
When I discovered that aquamarine was a gem and not just a color,
Yeah.
it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, welcome
So,
to it.
yeah, I don't play with that shit because I will get it wrong.
You know what? I love that for you.
I know a lot about that stuff because of Stardew Valley.
Yeah. You know what? That's usually how it starts. Someone asked me the other day why I have on my phone 24-hour clock and why I use 24-hour time, and it's simply because when I was a kid, I played Silent Hill, and there was one puzzle that required 24-hour clock to solve. So I learned 24-hour clock so I could actually... And I never looked back. It's just how it goes. You learn things.
It's funny because Miega calls it military time.
Yeah, well, because she's American.
American, yeah. So, but everyone else just calls it time.
24-hour time.
Yeah.
The confusing way that only matters when you travel.
It's true.
It's real simple up until I get to about 8 o'clock in the evening. And then I'm like, it's 2000. No, what is this? It always
Too
looks...
much math.
Yeah, it looks wrong on the clock. Anyway.
You're so funny.
No.
All right, moving on. Art objects. This is anything from jewels and handcrafted jewelry to legit paintings or sculptures or just general artifacts. And finally, we have our magical items. You can find magical items in numerous categories, such as armor, which usually must be worn to inherit its effects. Potions, usually a magical infused liquid that can be used by a player or administered. And a use is, of course, one action. Scrolls, these are usually spells in written form. I mean, that's basic.
Yep.
And usually, however,
it's basic.
yeah, basic. But are usually considered as consumable. So once read and cast, they tend to turn to dust. Rings, similar to armor, usually has to be worn. Rods, described as scepters or short walking sticks of 2 to 3 feet. Staffs, longer versions of a rod.
Heyo.
So
Enlarged.
So 5 to 6 feet, and can also be considered, or for the mechanical purposes, as a quarterstaff. Wands is a small magical stick that is usually tipped with another material like a gemstone or a crystal. It's so full of words.
A good tip.
Fair enough. Weapons can either be forged with magic or imbued later on, depending on the story of the item itself.
Sure.
And wondrous items, these are worn items like boots or cloaks and the like. Or even crystal balls and possibly even jewelry, depending on, again, the backstory and how it is created. These are inherently found when dungeon crawling and coming across some monster's hoard. But of course, you can flavor backstories of their creation and how they are carried throughout their existence, all the way to how they land in your player's hands. So, yeah, rules is written in Dungeons & Dragons. This is why you go into a dungeon, is to find a dragon and take its hoard.
Yeah.
Which are its magical items.
Looting.
Can
Yeah,
I
leave
take
the
its
mundane shit.
stuff?
Yeah. I'm leaving the art pieces and gems. That's...
Yeah. Unless you want
I
the
don't want the
gems
topaz.
for a spell. Like,
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Like diamonds and
that
stuff.
is it.
Sure.
Yeah.
like, you're picking your diamonds. I feel like pearls might be a part of some spells.
Yeah.
I want to make
But
some jewelry.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, magical items are also placed into a category of rarity, which is going to be anywhere from common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary. The historical idea behind this is that the art of creating a magical item has been lost over time and to the ages. So not only are they hard to find, but also hard to create. So a lot of magical items are considered to be antiques and tend to be squirreled away until the right moment comes. Or just to be hidden forever because they're too dangerous. Giving items rarity just provides players in DMs the ability to determine the magical scope of the item in comparison to others. This also means the rarity in D&D is attached to a character level and their growth of exploration. So there is actually a table in the DMG that describes things as, okay, common items are for first level or higher. Uncommons are for first level or higher. A rare item, however, is now 5th level or higher. A very rare item is 11th level or higher, and a legendary is a 17th level or higher.
So every time you hit a new tier.
Yeah. So every time you dump into a new CR tier, you can jump up to the next level of magical items, is kind of how they've mapped it out. Rarity can also help determine the ability to buy and sell, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
One other thing to consider when dealing in magical items is the magic item resilience. This is the idea that due to their masterful craftsmanship, they're inherently not only resistant to magic themselves, but also will require great measures to destroy. Except, of course, spell scrolls or wands that usually come with charges or expiry dates. So that's just something to kind of consider when using magical items.
I love that your wand is a best before.
Yeah, because there's a little tight date.
Yeah.
It's like, charges good up until February 14th, 2025.
So next Valentine's Day, your
Day.
wand won't work? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm fine. You know what? That's great. I gotta work with that one. We love it when it's well tipped.
I put the wrong people on this episode.
You knew what you were doing.
100% you knew what you were doing. All right, well, let's roll some dice. I have some questions and some thoughts to weasel out of you guys.
I'm yellow today.
I'm yellow today.
You're one again, Adam.
Oh,
one.
fuck's
I rolled an 11.
All
Casey got a 1.
All
right,
So you got a 10.
I got a 10. Adam's the 1.
I am the one.
I am the 1. So the first generalized question is, how do we feel about these rules that are kind of provided for us in the DMG? I like the fact that there are guidelines for when a new DM is coming into the game, you can determine how too powerful a weapon is based on the tier of your players.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of gives you that as a roadmap, so you can kind of go into it being, okay, I'm only coming in at level 5, which means, okay, I'm not going to give them legendary items. I might just stick with rare and below. So when you're looking at rewarding your players, that's kind of, what kind of weapon tier you're looking at as well. So I don't mind them. I think that's great. I mean, I've never had a problem with magical items existing in the game. So to me, the rules as written works for me. But what about you guys?
I agree. I think everybody who starts a D&D campaign just wants a magical weapon immediately, and then wants to find all of the powerful shit.
Yeah.
And if you hand that over too soon, you can then skew one player, especially if one player finds a very powerful weapon that's magical. It can set the scene for just not then you're always chasing that.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta let the players simmer with what they have and then appreciate at the right tier when they actually have earned finding more unique magic items and getting those magical weapons or magical armor, and it builds up from there. If you get it too soon, I think it skews your experience.
Yeah,
so,
it makes
I
you too powerful too fast if you go a little bit too high tiered.
Yeah.
Because, we're all gunning to be that hero of the group and to have those strong capabilities, but sometimes just starting with 0 is a good way to go and earn it, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
I throw that right at the fucking window.
Fuck you guys, I want heroes right away.
Yeah, no, you guys know I give you shopping lists of magic items to start off with at level 1, right?
Yeah. But they tend to be uncommon.
Or common. I seem to be really low powered because I do want to be able to scale up, and I'm very aware of power creep.
Yeah.
We did a whole episode on power creep because I'm hyper fucking aware of power creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't give us crazy powerful weapons to pick at the start.
I mean, I got an expanding rod, which I felt was very great. Thanks, Adam.
Large. So, I gotta say, I very rarely hand out magic weapons.
Yeah.
They tend to be magic items, and they're usually one use only.
Yeah.
That way I can hand out something powerful. You can do Meteor Storm at 3rd level, but that doesn't get out of jail free card. That's not that's not, hey,
it's
look,
a Hail
you can
Mary.
do this. Yeah, exactly. And they've come in handy more than once.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, I'm annoyed with these rules in the DMG because for all of the shit they talk about rarity, they don't give you a single common magic item. It's not until Xanathar's or Eberron has a bunch, and I think they're littered through later books, where you get a common magic item. Everything here is uncommon or higher.
Oh, that's fair to point out.
Yeah, weird. And I thought that was crippling, and so I came up with my own list when we first started playing, and then that's why I've just gotten used to the handing that out. Remember the bank vault full of
Oh yeah.
just like
I will never
weird,
forget.
like nearly mundane, but they were magic items. They just had one like weird little effect. Like, hey, there's this, you have a set of dice and they float. They just don't touch the ground when they're rolled. That doesn't mean anything. It's not neat. It's just a magical trinket.
Yeah.
I love that shit. So yeah, other than that, I like it. I wish they give us a list, just like, if you're gonna add a +1, it should be this. If you're gonna add a +2, it should be this. If you're gonna make it so that it's a consumable thing that lets you change your movement speed to be something else, then it would, this is an uncommon item, this is how much it costs. Doesn't matter if it's a cracker or a potion or a
Yeah.
you know, a pair of boots with that pops us off once, like, it's gonna be this. If it's used 2 to 3 times a day, it's gonna be rare now, and so it costs this much. That's what a DMG should do, in my opinion. Not just say, here are our examples, but actually give you the tools to make your own.
Yeah, that's fair.
That makes sense. I mean, that kind of brings us into our the next question I have, which is around, is there something in the rule set that you would homebrew? Which we kind of broke down a little bit of things, but for me, I think that if I was to homebrew anything, it would be that everyone, no matter what level you're at for your party, will start with one type of magical item of some kind that is tied to the character's history or backstory or somewhat. And Adam, you do a great job of this, where you give us a shopping list customized to our character that we can spend points to buy things, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's a thing that I've held on to and I've done in my other campaigns, is that I'm like, okay, everybody's going to start with at least one magical item, depending on what level you are, and depending on a list that you get to choose for and we get to choose for ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a little bit more onus on the development of our character based on the items that we get to start the game off. Right.
And there was usually, not always, because some were just wacky shit.
Yeah.
But usually a backstory reason as to why you would have this tied in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially with characters or like people who are struggling with creating a backstory, me, sometimes that was enough to spark, oh, this is a very interesting magic item. And like you give like a prompt where this is from your past, like somebody gave this to you and it means a lot, blah, 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 and it will come up later. Then it starts making you think about what could that person have been? What could have been in the scenario? Mm-hmm. So it also helps with that, which I appreciate because I am someone who struggles with building backstory. I need to live and breathe the character for a while and then build the backstory.
You, Charlie, and Dave learn your characters as you go.
Yeah.
Megan, Dan, and Mieka show up with it in their head already. Let's do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm about 50-50. Like, I have an idea in my head, but then, of course, with the people that I interact with, kind of changes how I shift and change to fit in with the group a little bit as I go. But I definitely have an idea when I come in. And, like, to be fair, though, like, with the list of items, so my most recent character, a monk, dragon, princess, one of the items she took off the list that you provided her was a tiara, like a crown that she wears. It's not inherently magical to a whole thing, but it's a representation of her family and her backstory. So, and she wears it, and there was one couple of episodes where she actually took it off because she was pissed. But that was a good, like, character moment of, like, I am no longer this person.
Your background in L5R makes you very, very good at coming in with a solid idea, and then I'm going to evolve this character right from the beginning. Character development is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Right? And so, whereas a lot of other people, Dave's the outlier. Everybody else at the table learns and evolves and grows over time.
Yeah.
But you do it right from first session, right? Where you're like, oh, I am this person. And then by the end of the first one, you're like, but I will be this.
At some point in time, I will be this, and you will see the difference. Fair enough. Adam, any more comments on any of the rule sets that you might homebrew?
I mean, yeah, probably. When I look at the specific items themselves, one of the things that I like to do is flip through the official items and say, hey, this would be really cool if it only gets to be used once. I can hand it out earlier. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, if at the moment I make it limited uses, I can determine how often to give it out. I do not like things that recharge at dawn.
Yeah. Mm.
Right? I like to just give you, if I want you to have more magic missile charges, I will give you a second fucking wand. Right? Like,
right. Somehow you will get some kind of a resource if I feel it is needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that does let the DM, like, explore the rare and up stuff before, because, like, sometimes campaigns never make it to the point, rules as written in the book, that you're going to come across that. So that gives the opportunity to throw those in.
I got a question. Do you guys feel like it's too much? Like, I hand out lots of little magic items. And I know that there are sometimes, Charlie and Dan specifically, will freeze and go, wait a minute, I have something for this. And then they flip through 19 pages of shit to figure out what it is that they're looking for and go, oh, I guess maybe not. And they didn't check page 20, right? Like, do you guys find there's too many magic items? Like, does it become overwhelming at some point?
I inherently, Adam, in your games, build my characters to not be possessive of items.
I know.
I've never been a character that collects items because I hate inventory management.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the fact that it's too many or too little items. I just personally hate inventory management. So I do try to keep my items to one page.
Mm-hmm.
So that if something pops off, to your point, that maybe I have something in my inventory, but I don't have 700 pages to look through.
It's like in 90 seconds, it's like, no.
Yeah. No, I have nothing. Like, but to your point, like, yes, it can get overwhelming that if you have a couple small ones, like, I think, like, some of the small ones that I had as a character was, like, I had a potion of giant strength and, like, a couple of other, like, random little potions and tidbits and things like that sometimes I would use them and then they would not pop off the way I wanted them to, and then I'd be like, oh, fuck it. Like, I'm going raw.
No, but you see, that's the thing is, let's skip right past that. That's the thing is when you use it and it doesn't work the way you wanted it to, that gives me an excuse to then give you another one.
Yeah.
Afterwards. This allows me to not have, you find 3 copper pieces on every fucking goblin. Yeah. Every 5th goblin's got a wand of, or a crown of, or a something. I can hand that out and it's single use. You're going to get it off once and then see, okay, that I can do it again if I ever find another one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's what I think I appreciate, because, like, if it's a higher level in the way, if you're using it and it's a higher level thing than what you should, it should potentially not work.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is a fucking Hail Mary. So it might not work. And if it doesn't work, it's like, well, shit, I tried. So I don't necessarily think you're handing out too many. I have evolved as a player because I used to hoard.
Yeah.
And then I got to, like, level 18 and I'm like, I never used these things that would have been really fucking handy to have
These
used.
700 small potions that are 1 dice would have really came in handy when I was level 7, but do not come in handy when I was level 18.
And so I hang on to things too, and so then you get bogged down and then you lose sight of everything. So I have been really trying to embrace having a 1 page, and, you know, if encounters happen, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to use this, like, clairvoyance, like, scroll and see what the fuck happens. And if it works, great. If not, whatever. If it works, it's like an epic, memorable moment, and you just move on from it.
There's something else that I do, which I don't think you guys realize, is I will come up with something, and it will be like an NPC that has a specific gimmick, or there will be a place within the world, or there will be a trap or something. This item fixes the problem. And I will hand it out 12 sessions beforehand, and then watch you guys fall into that fucking trap every time, and then look at me at the end of the campaign and go, why did I have this Thieves' Tools kit that was specifically brass and had a lock that could only be opened underwater? Like, well, do you remember the fucking brass trap underwater? Oh, yeah.
You dick. Yeah.
Right. So as a DM, I do that a lot, which is why and I see you guys miss it, but it's Dan and Charlie that hoard the magic items and don't use them, and so that's why, right?
That's fair.
Although Charlie's getting better about it, but I can't do the other thing I do. Oh my god, and this is so fucking important to do, is I make sure that there is something that fills in the gap. You guys, for example, right now don't have don't you have at your fucking table? You don't have a paladin.
Yeah. A teeny one.
Yeah, you got 1 level in it, right?
Yes.
But there's no one there that can, for example, have a big ass aura right now.
Yeah, no.
So I will give out items that fill those.
Dead.
The cleric is dead. So
not bitter at all.
So I will make sure that I hand out items that will, like, the fighter in the group will get an item that if they hold it and they say the words, they will be able to rage for 1 minute once.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a barbarian at the table. Here we go. Let's actually see the mechanic going. It's really cool to go in and cherry pick what you want out of other subclasses even, right? And say, hey, this would be a good item for a one-off to get the flavor of.
Yeah.
Oh man, and you could easily, like, non-intentionally spark someone to suddenly decide, I want to multi-class. That was fucking awesome.
I do that to Dan all the time. He twitches. He's like, I could have been a ranger.
Shut up, Dan.
Poor Dan.
All right, that's all I have on the basic necessities of magical items as a whole.
Well, let's talk about what to do when you get them, though.
Fair.
Sometimes you need to wear or wield an item in order for it to take effect. Like a pair of magical boots, for example. You just having it in your backpack doesn't count.
Fair.
You have to wear it in the appropriate way, like boots on the feet or a belt around the waist. If you wield it, that means that you have to hold it in your hands.
I like that. You have to be very specific about that.
Well, there are creatures that have tails that you could, like, wrap your prehensile tail around it and wield that way. Or the Simic Hybrid has, tentacle options. You have to wield it in your upper limbs, right? You have to be able to grasp it.
Fair enough.
Also, I would say this is important when you polymorph. This is why I say always polymorph into a primate. You have opposable thumbs, you can hold magic items. Doesn't help when you are a salamander.
Smart.
Yep. If it comes as part of a set, like there's 2 boots or 2 gloves or a helmet and goggles or something, then you need to be wearing or wielding all parts of the set to be able to activate the magical properties. Otherwise, it's just a mundane version of that item until you get all the parts. If it's too big or too small, don't worry. Almost all magic items either magically adjust size and shape to adhere to the user, or they are adjustable. Unless the DM says otherwise, but it should really be a plot-related reason according to the DMG. I fucking hate that. Don't let the dead giant's helmet fit on the halfling. Fuck off.
I feel like we had a whole, 40-minute session of the fact that, not even a magical piece of armor that Dan put on was too small.
Yeah.
And it was just a fucking riot. I don't know why, but, I will hold that memory in my head as a core memory for the rest of my life. So I agree.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
But I get it for 5th edition who just wants... I'm going to hand out this piece of leather armor. I don't know who's going to end up wearing it in the party, but I do have a halfling and a Goliath. Yeah. Doesn't matter who gets it. It will automatically just...
Yeah, in those instances, it makes sense. Rules is written. It's there. So,
sure, yeah. So there are not item slots in D&D like there are in video games. So when it comes to whether or not a creature can wear or wield multiple magic items of the same kind, use your common sense and remember that the DM has a final word on the matter. You can't wear 9 cloaks. You can probably wear 9 rings.
I just pictured Joey from Friends when he was wearing every article of clothing of Chandler's.
Did you see the TikTok of the guy that does that and starts to overheat and it's a panic? They got to cut it off him.
Oh my god. I would also panic and die.
Yeah.
I would just be I can't do this. This is too many articles of clothing. Anyways.
So sometimes, I got the wrong people in this podcast. Sometimes a creature may have a different kind of body part.
Tell me more.
Like a tail instead of legs, or eye stalks, or even a tentacle.
Yep.
It's up to the DM to determine whether or not it can be worn in a satisfactory way. If you have something like a belt that you want to put around the base of your tail, or a ring on the end of the tentacle. Shit like that.
Any appendage can have a ring, Adam.
When it comes to activating a weapon that doesn't have an always-on passive ability, there are some rules. Moving right along. We're going to make it through this. Gonna power through. Fuck. First of all, it takes an action to activate an item. And that's if it takes an action, then it takes a fucking action. That means that you can't use a bonus action to activate a magical item, even if an ability would normally allow you to use a bonus action to complete actions. There are some subclass features that say, hey, normally this is what's a good example? Disengage is an action except for rogues that can use a bonus action. Doesn't apply to magic items. It always takes an action if it says it takes an action. If there's a command word, then you have to speak the magic word. And I do mean speak, not whisper. This is an eruption of magical power, so you can't stealth your way around it, and you can't say command words if you're under the silence spell. It has to be heard. That's part of it. If it's a magical consumable like a potion, elixir, oil, or scroll, then it gets used up after it has been utilized. Potions are swallowed, oils are absorbed, and the ink on scrolls disappears. Sometimes we can flavor it as the scroll turns to dust and disappears. I always have consumable wands turn blackened over time until the whole thing is black and it's just dead. That's how you can tell how how much has been used.
Yeah.
If the item is used to cast a spell, then it's different from regular spell casting. So a scroll, for example, or a wand. You don't need spell slots, you don't need components, you don't need materials, or spell foci. None of that is needed. If you have to cast a spell at the lowest level possible, you have to cast the spell at the lowest level possible unless indicated otherwise. You have to be able to cast spells and use your spellcasting modifier plus proficiency modifier as usual. Stock fighter cannot do this because he cannot cast spells.
Yeah.
Right. Or if they are adamant to try, then there's like a big...
This is an Arcana check and it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's consequences.
Yeah. Otherwise, normal duration, normal concentration rules, and normal range and duration as well. So, I said duration twice. Otherwise, normal duration, normal concentration rules, and normal range and area. The exception to all that is things like potions, which bypass the actual casting of the spell and just give you the fucking effects. Mm-hmm. There's no spell being cast. You can't counter spell a potion like you can a scroll or a wand.
Yeah.
And also, watch out for charges. Charges are essentially an accounting of how many times you can cast a spell through an item before it needs to be replenished. Most items with charges regain spell charges at dawn and the following day, but that's not always the case. You learn the maximum number of charges, the current amount of available charges, and the conditions for recharging the item when the item is identified or when it becomes attuned to. So you just get that. There's no surprises. There is a variant rule in DMG about wands that don't recharge and how if you're going to have a wand with a finite number of charges, then you should give it more charges. But I inherently disagree with that, but fuck you, do you. So, I mentioned a second ago attunement, and we haven't talked about that yet. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need to connect to a magical item before you can interact with the special abilities it has. When you need to connect like this, it's called attunement, and sometimes you have to meet certain requirements before you can attune. Anyone who picks up the item without attuning to it can just use like a normal item would be used, right? Mm-hmm. But if you want the good stuff, then you got to spend a short rest putting all your attention on the item in question. And that is an entire short rest. You cannot be recovering hit dice. You can't be wandering around and investigating an area. You can't be sorting your wands from biggest to smallest. It's just this. This may mean meditating with it or investigating it or practicing a series of tasks with it. But whatever it is, you have to maintain physical contact with it for the entire short rest. Once you finish the short rest, you have a deep instinctual connection and understanding of the item, and you know how to activate any magical properties. Interestingly, this has to be a short rest that is different from a rest used to identify the item. So you can identify it once, and then you have to take another short rest. So if your attunement gets interrupted, then the attunement doesn't work and you have to try again another time. Now, normally attunement usually indicates that the item in question is powerful. Most playable classes can only attune to 3 items at a time, with the exception being artificers. If you try to attune to a 4th item, it just auto-fails. Now, if you want to unattune to an item, there are a few ways to do this. One is to spend another short rest unattuning to it. Another is to change enough so that you no longer meet any prerequisites. For example, if you're attuned to a sword that requires you to have a certain amount of strength and you get hit for strength damage, you will lose your attunement. Mm. If you die, you lose your attunement. So when you come back from death, time to reattune. If it ends up more than 100 feet away from you for more than 24 hours, you lose your attunement, so you can't leave it back in the guild house safe. Yeah. And if someone else attunes to it, then your attunement ends. And finally, you cannot attune to more than one of any kind of item. Like, for example, multiple rings of protection. It's one and done. That's it.
Yeah, you get it or you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we have on using magic items.
Awesome. Let's grab some dice.
I'm going to roll a 1 again.
You know what? Try your best.
Ooh, close. I did it!
Yay!
So I would like the audience to realize Adam rolled a 4, I rolled a 2, and Casey rolled a 1.
I'm going first with a 4?
You're going first with a 4, my friend.
I'm just rocking it.
Alright, so you just talked a lot about a bunch of rules. How do you feel about them in general?
I mean, sure, this is common sense to me. I don't think I've ever read any of these. None of this was a shock to me, except you can't identify it for an hour and then, during a short rest and then attune to it. You need 2 short rests.
Yeah.
Weird, but sure, okay.
Sure. I mean, for, economy balancing, I guess, but...
Fuck, I guess. I'm also totally going to have NPCs and villains steal your, attuned item, run away, hide for an hour, and attune to it just so you don't fucking have it anymore.
Yeah.
Just so when you get it back, you can't use it. You need a short rest.
Yeah.
Fucking annoying.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be one kobold just really, really focusing on that fucking
Yeah.
helmet or gauntlet or something.
Well, that's fair. And like, same thing with me. Like, I feel like the rules, like, nothing was a surprise to me that I read. It's just kind of like, that's just how the game operates. The only one that was a surprise to me, which I think I made a face at, which I didn't realize, was when you die, you lose your attunement.
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't done.
We have not
any
done
about
that. Like,
You got, no, not 0 hit points, not death saves.
Oh, okay.
Die. When you die, you
Okay,
lose
well,
attunement.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's what I mean.
thought-
When you get
okay.
raised from the dead, when you get resurrected, you have to reattune.
Oh, resurrected.
When you get bounced back up with 1 hit point, you're fine.
I thought you meant like if you hit 0 hit points and then you get like
Like-
death saved alive,
No.
like
Then
you have to
know.
reattune. I'd be like, I would wake up as like a level 18 something or other, being like, shit,
like
like just patting my arm or being like nothing works. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like, okay, that makes more sense. I was
Yeah.
kind of like, what the fuck?
No, die.
Die.
Yeah.
The death of the death of.
Yes.
Yeah, the longest sleep. Okay, well then, no rules were a surprise to me. I have no problems with any of them. They seem to fit and work for me.
yeah, I have no problem with them. Upholding them, I mean, can be a bit of a challenge. It's a little bit nitpicky to remember all that as a DM to
Yeah.
try and enforce it. And, like, it's not complicated. It's just remembering. It's like, oh, wait, this happened, so I should check on the attunement, regulations
Yeah.
around this.
The other thing that I didn't cover at all, which most DMs should know, is that when shit gets lit on fire, when everything gets blown up, when there's a sphere of annihilation, when all this shit happens that destroys items or removes items or burns items, it never affects magic items. Magic items just live through it.
Yeah.
That's part of being magical.
Yeah.
I, as a dungeon master, have very different fucking rules for that because it's not. I got fire, sure. I also have hellfire and dragon's breath. Those are all different kinds of fire,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so dragon's breath will melt your fucking magic items. Hellfire will melt your items, but dude's campfire won't.
Yeah, but I think that's what bodes the resilience I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
right? Is that they're just harder to destroy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not indestructible via
Mhm.
magic.
Yeah.
It just means they have a little bit more resistance to it, and it's going to take a dragon's breath. It's going to
Yeah.
take something a little bit more powerful to, like, nick it in the bud.
I really think that there should be a spell, and fuck, maybe I'll just write one, that is destroy magic item. It's a 3rd level spell,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Ooh.
That,
Could you imagine?
and if you cast it at 5th, 7th, 9th, you can get rid of rare, very rare, or legendary
Ooh.
items, right? So
That's pretty cool.
You'd have some players flipping tables.
no, but I would give it like that's available for the players, so that when they get the Necronomicon or the Wand of Orcus, they can be like, all right, we need 24 hours. There's a ritual that needs to be done, but we can fucking destroy it. Like this is how we get out of this jam that we're in because. All the magic items out there, you shouldn't be able to just snap the Wand of Orcus. It should just be a DC 35 strength check. No, that shouldn't do it. You should lose both fucking arms. You should Thanos this shit.
There
right?
should be a reaction
Yeah.
to your action.
Or you need the Council of Mages to get together to do this
Yeah.
properly, right?
And, like, major consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Is there something in the rule set that you feel like you would homebrew, Adam? You just kind of spoke to that. You would homebrew.
The other thing that I like to do is hand out new stuff for attunement.
That's fair.
Yeah, I will. I did this. You guys, I famously did this in our campaign with the Archmage, who was just a dwarf that got a ring that allowed him to attune to everything. No limit to attunements.
Mhm.
So he just had a whole bunch of magic items, and everyone thought he was a mage, but he was just a mundane, non-spellcasting dwarf.
Had a robe full of wands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody want to buy a wand?
hey kid, you ever had wands?
Yeah. Buy a sundial.
I have an artificer in the party, so I won't do it because it steps on their toes.
Mhm.
But if I didn't have an artificer in the party, come tier 3, tier 4, I might hand out rings or a belt or something that allows you to attune to more items, right?
Yeah.
So you may get 4 or 5. In case there's smaller, like uncommon or rare ones that people have attuned to, that they've built their character around, but now they really need to wield the +7 sword of fuck-offery,
Yeah.
right, for level 20. And so now you can do that.
Yeah. And I like to play with, like, it's not necessarily a homebrew rule, but it's a rule that I like to kind of play around with because, like, other DMs I played with, I use it. Is that if my players can do it, I, as the DM, can do it, which means
Yeah.
I think that applies with magical items as well.
Mm.
No matter what tier your big bad evil guy is at, will have that tier of magical items on their person,
Mhm.
or have collected certain things, or they'll be aware of the magical items you have, therefore will be able to combat them or retort them. So I just think that's a good rule to play with. that if your player's allowed to be heroes, I as a DM can make hero villains.
Mm-hmm.
So just be prepped for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just negate and counter all
Yeah.
of those big, beefy items. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
And it's a good tip to try and force your group to remember they have magical items that do things like that,
Mhm.
right? Because, like, to your point, if you have an inventory issue where you have too many magical items, having a hyper-specific item that your villain has that your players can retort if they had decided to actually look at their inventory and find the magical orb that does fire damage that they're weirdly weak to, like... You know, it just kind of enforces that direction, that if you definitely give your even your NPCs, like your characters that are running around with your player characters, should probably have magical weapons. They are also travelers. They are also people wandering around.
Well, in 5th edition, the way that it's written is magic items are supposed to be very, very rare, and every single player gets one magic item per tier.
Yeah.
Hard stop. Which I find is absolutely fucking debilitating. That's not how we play. I love giving my NPCs magic items.
Yep.
Because having the backup of the guy that can cast Scorching Ray, but you can only do it 4 times with this wand, he's going to be like, should I do it now? And then have the player say, yes, do it on your turn in initiative. Then that's fun. It's memorable. It's neat. Instead of just never having anyone else ever hold a wand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just giving them something other than, well, we need to, like, protect these, like, squishy.
Yeah.
And that's all they get to do as your NPC.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right, that's all the questions I had around the usage of the magical items themselves.
Okay, so the DMG gives us a lot of context on actually building out the history behind a magic item. So we're kind of going to dig into that, and if you're going to do this in your campaign, you will just need a whole set of dice, but primarily D20s.
All the dice.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're really stumped on how the fuck to do this, it is laid out for you. So first, we're going to talk about the first table that is on page 142. It's essentially talking about who created this magic item and who was intended to use it. So you can roll a d20 and actually like build it out based on your rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do that now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay.
So, everybody roll. This is going to be fun.
Yay.
I rolled a 1.
Hey, we all did it.
Oh my god, there's ones today.
I got a 19. Casey, what'd you get? I can't see it.
What am I yelling? Oh, 14.
You're 14. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with highest and go down to lowest. So if we rolled a 19 for a magic item, who was red?
That was me.
That was you. So this magic item that you are creating was created by a gnome.
Fuck.
It was created by Dan.
God damn it, Dan. The item is crafted to appear ordinary, and it might look worn. It could also incorporate gears and mechanical components, even if these aren't essential to the item's function.
It just fucking buzzes for no reason.
For no reason?
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm in the
For
wrong.
no reason?
Not wrong fucking group.
Yeah. So is it buzzing from your carry-on, or
You never put it in your carry-on, Casey.
first mistake?
Checked
First
baggage
mistake.
only.
So
So glad this isn't a visual medium because I'm just fucking dying right now.
You're welcome.
You know, the way to get through that in an airport is make sure that you leave it on 24 hours in advance so that it's not going to trigger anything when it rolls around your suitcase. I know this from using an electric razor.
sure.
Sure. Sure you do.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So
I mean, we're talking to the man in the room that had a long-distance relationship, so I believe it.
Yes, do what
Yes,
you
a
need
razor.
to do.
Yes.
I need a beer.
All right, moving down to the 14, which is what I rolled. This is elf. So the item is half the normal height. Why?
Half of them will wait.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
It's just slender.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Half the normal weight. And it is adorned with symbols of nature, so leaves, vines, stars, and the like. So again, it's meant to be that inspiration on what it might look like and where it comes from. And finally, we have the one. Was that you?
That's me. Yep.
One on the table is the aberration. So the item was created by aberrations in ancient times, possibly for the use of favored humanoid thralls. Of course.
It feels very Megan fitting, you know?
When seen from the corner of the eye, the item seems to be moving. It's like spiders.
Why you gotta say spiders? Why not just like ghosts and ghouls and shit?
Because Megan.
How did I get the one that's fucking in luggage? Hers is moving out of the corner of your eye. Fuck.
Enlarging.
As we speak.
All right, so that's kind of a taste of where you might start off trying to build out a magic item on where it originated or who might want to use it.
Yeah.
So what can you do with that information? Well, it's the opportunity to add your own connection to somebody's backstory if, say, they are an elf or they do have a connection to gnomish history. This might be the tie to that type of backstory.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be a hint in where the campaign might lead. Maybe this is an item that is of great importance, and you find out that it has a connection to aberrations in ancient times, and so now you need to start exploring why and what exactly it does, and that moves your campaign in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I am not saying another fucking word for the rest of this episode.
Fair.
Oh, Lord.
So next, when you're creating a story around a magic item or a magic item, is what is a detail from its history? So this might be what makes it magical or just makes it noticeable in, like, when you're looting. This is what you find out. So we're going to roll again to see what we get. So this is actually a D8 table.
Yeah.
We have
So
a D8 up here.
Okay.
We're just going to have to take turns rolling it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Casey got an 8.
Of course.
I got a 5.
I've got a 5 too, so I'm going to reroll it. I got a 3.
All right. So starting with 8, if you roll a D8, this is a symbol of power. So this item was once used as part of royal regalia or as a badge of high office. Its former owner or that person's descendants might desire it, or someone might mistakenly assume its new owner is the item's legitimate inheritor.
Cool.
Again, building connections to backstories or foreshadowing of who you might encounter, or if you find this, someone might be hunting you.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, you got 5.
I got
right?
5,
Okay.
yeah.
So 5 is prophecy. The item features in a prophecy. Its bearer is destined to play a key role in future events. Someone else who wants to play that role might try to steal the item, or someone who wants to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled might try to kill the item's bearer. Again, could be picking up an item, and if it has this kind of history that you pick, could be a whole sidebar. Suddenly, your directive in the campaign is flipped because suddenly someone's coming after you and you don't know why. And it's because, oh, last time, remember when you killed all those people and looted the bodies? You picked up a magic item.
Yeah.
I just want to be really clear, just before we do mine. This is meant for DMs to do to the important, significant magic items, not just every fucking wand.
No.
Otherwise, you're going to be just pulled in 1,000 directions.
Yeah, way too overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is when you're building something to mean a lot. And
It's your campaign items, your sun swords and shit.
absolutely. Okay, and with a 3, finally, is heroic. A great hero once wielded this item. Anyone who's familiar with the item's history expects great deeds from the new owner. So it's that as you're traveling and someone in the town that you travel through that's connected to someone's backstory notices you have that sword or that piece of armor that has the emblem on it. And it's like, oh my gosh, you are blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's every magic item is created for a reason, and if you're wanting to try and get some direction on what that reason could be, this is that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very much so.
Okay, so next we have the minor property. So this is something that may not be as apparent when you encounter this item and what comes out after you look at it a little bit more. So this is going to be a D20 roll again.
Doing it. Oh, I rolled a 2.
All right.
I rolled a 3.
And I got a
That's a
9.
Mhm.
Okay. So for a minor property that a magic item might have, for a 9, we have key. This item is used to unlock a container, chamber, vault, or other entryway. Again, such a handy item that someone will pick up, put in their pouch or bag of holding, forget about, and then you're standing in front of a door that you really, really need to get through.
But it's not like it's a literal key. It's like this scimitar that's curved in a specific way fits exactly into the hand of the statue to open the thing.
Totally.
That's really fucking fun.
Yeah. And unless you've like done some work on looking at it, investigating it, that sort of thing may not be apparent.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3, conscientious. When the bearer of this item contemplates or undertakes a malevolent act, the item enhances pangs of conscience. Interesting.
Fucking give it to Charlie.
Charlie or Dan.
Yeah.
Existential crisis.
Yeah. You're doing it wrong. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So interesting.
Yeah.
And like, how long would it take for somebody to know where that sense of guilt and panic comes from? You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And number 2, compass. The wielder can use an action to learn which way is north. So this one, it could legitimately just be a compass. It looks like a compass. You can use it as a compass. It works. But then it also has this underlying ability that you just don't quite know is there.
Yeah, or it could be anything. Like your sword just wants to point in that direction. It's not going to take a strength check. It just, if you put it down on the ground, it's going to slowly just shift, right?
Yeah.
So.
I also like the visual of like a necklace or a pendant that you let swing. And then it swings in the direction of north. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So giving everything a little bit more context and
more
flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Extra things. All right. So we're moving on to quirks. A quirk that it has. So we're going to roll a D12.
And that one.
Good job. All right.
Thanks,
I got a
Casey.
9.
9.
I got an 8.
I got a 7.
7. How
There we
cute.
go.
Nice.
How cute.
All right, so quirk on the table we have for 9, painful. The bearer experiences a harmless flash of pain when using this item. So likely connected to something that potentially could be evil related or something that, you know, it's like the guilt conscious. I feel like it's like, what you're doing might be wrong. So you get that flash of pain.
Just a little sting.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, like, this is the magic item that survived a war or something. And, like, it's the necklace of a king who was beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you use it, you can feel the burn around your neck. Right? Like,
Yeah. I like that too.
I'm going to give this to Dan, but on a cod piece.
Just a zap to the crotch.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You can take 1 lightning damage.
All right, number 8, we have muttering. The item grumbles and mutters. A creature who listens carefully to the item might learn something useful. Okay.
We love a sentient sword, you know?
Yeah, we love something that desperately tries. This is your DM out on just fucking go this way.
This is where I need you to go. Could you please listen?
Please.
There's a little voice in the back of your head that says, "Are you sure?"
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Rethink this.
Yeah.
All right, and number 7 is metamorphic. The item periodically and randomly alters its appearance in slight ways. The bearer has no control over these minor alterations, which have no effect on the item's use. So hilarious. If you love pulling out this item and using it, and every time you pull it out, it's slightly different, and it's just like adds
What are we
flavor.
talking about?
Heyo.
It's like, depends on the on your preference on enlarge and reduce.
How cold is it outside?
Yeah.
What's your diet like?
Oh, Lord.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, is that too far, Megan? That was the line I fucking crossed?
Crossed it.
Fuck.
Line's been crossed, Adam.
Nonetheless, like, this really just gives you a bit of kind of direction when you're wanting to just flesh out a little bit more on your magic items.
Yeah. Correct, Casey.
And magic items should have a really, a real good benefit.
Yeah.
That's generally why you want to keep them, especially. But there also potentially should be some sort of cost, like in terms of maybe a little bit of a negative thing, like that flash of pain, or it does something really embarrassing or awkward while you do it, but the benefits outweigh it.
Or requires souls to feed it, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like...
just something that's there's a cost there.
Plus 10 to your
it.
movement speed, but every step sounds like a fart.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you choose whether you want to attune or not.
I love it, because next we're going to go into talking about homebrewing our own magical items, and I like the idea of Adam now creating boots of speed, but it just sounds like a fart.
No, it'll be a dagger. Every time you stab someone, it makes like a rotten egg smell. It smells like farts.
Oh,
It's called silent but deadly.
I love it. That's delightful.
Casey did not. I got the angry
hilarious.
glare.
Oh, Lord. All right, so here, what I want to do is I want to roll dice. And I think instead of going question by question, I would almost just want to hear, like, the whole kit and caboodle of your magical item.
All right.
Oh, my God.
So we're going to use from, in my mind, you can take from the tables, or you can just kind of create things on your own, of, like, how you're going to put this magical item together, keeping in mind, of course, who created it, a detail from its history, what minor property does it have, and what kind of quirks might you give it. Okay?
Cool.
All right. 19. Oh, you killed my dice. I got a 9.
Yeah, you're still going first with the 9.
Yeah.
So you're first, Megan.
Great.
Build a magic item.
Okay, so...
No pressure.
It's all good. So the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is like who created it. So this is going to be a magical sword of sorts, shall we say.
Yeah, let's figure out what the item is first, right?
Yeah, it's a magical sword.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. But like, what kind of sword was where I was going? Is it a rapier? Is it a scimitar? Or is this just like a long sword?
It could just be like a long sword, or like a
Okay.
you know,
I just want to know if it was pirates
a
or
bastard
knights.
sword or something. It's more knights-ish. So like a
Okay.
bastard sword of some
Alright.
kind. Okay. This would be a probably a legendary item from
Mhm.
what I'm speaking to. So that'd be kind of its rarity there. This will require attunement. And this is why. So the creator of this item would have been either a drow or the fae that was hired by a council that is now shifting into a monarch. So this was once a city run by a council that is now switching into having a monarch. So they're creating a fail-safe weapon that will warn them if their new leader is going to do anything to betray them. So they've now hired a very strong drow or a very strong fae to kind of imbue this magical weapon that is now going to be in the hands of the vizier of the king, essentially. Right? So that's kind of the interesting tidbit from its history. And what I would add is I'd make it like prophetic, that at some point they learned that the king would betray them, but they know it's what's best for the land at this point in time. So we need to create this sword as our fail-safe for when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So then the minor quirk I gave it was it could act almost as like a compass, so the vizier can find the king at all times, and it would be unbreakable. So those would be kind of little pieces that I would add to it. And then the quirk that I gave it was that it can hear the voices of any of the old kings.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So the vizier, who is now like helping this king along years in the future, will have all the voices of the previous kings in the past in their mind. So they can see where mistakes may have come. They will learn from past kings' mistakes, and that's where their advisory comes from, is they gain knowledge from the sword when they attune to it of all the past kings to help the king move forward.
I like that a lot. Can I add one thing to it?
Absolutely. Throw down, Adam. What would you add?
The sword chooses the citizen of the kingdom with the purest heart, and then that person just needs to listen, and that's why they're good at their job.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they've got training, not because they've got super intelligent, just because they want the best for everyone.
Yeah.
And so they will listen to the kings that are speaking in their mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that way, you can have a player end up like, your reward is citizenship within the kingdom. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, cool.
That's really cool.
And then, bam, the sword chooses you.
Yeah.
And now you've got it.
You now have to be the vizier of the king. It's
Yeah.
like, I have an adventure to do. But that could also be that arc that pops off to say, this is now the king that's going to betray the lands.
Mm-hmm.
And now your group is responsible for the fact that you know this information now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? And that's a great story thing. So, like, I couldn't really think of a really cool name for it. All I could think of was, like, Blade of Failsafe or Blade Hail Mary. Like... But yeah.
Fuck around, find out.
Fuck around, find out. Fafo.
Fafo.
The Blade of Fafo. But yeah, I just thought that was a really cool, like, little thing to, like, add in to the background, right?
Mhm.
And the vizier might always look out of place, because it's just a commoner who doesn't necessarily know...
Was the chosen one.
Was the chosen one, doesn't really know how to operate within, like, high standards,
Mhm.
right? So they might be super awkward and super quiet.
At first, like the first day in the job, there's all these king's voices going, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Puff your chest out. What are you doing? Stop fidgeting.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god. But, like, I also like the idea that you would almost hear the voices of the council as well, right?
Mhm.
But I do enjoy the idea that it was also created by somebody on the outside.
Yeah.
So if you were to be like, okay, well, we want to destroy this sword so that we can allow, like, let's say you're playing an evil campaign, you need the sword to be destroyed to allow the king to be able to betray its people without folks knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal now is to find this drow or fae and be like, how do we destroy this sword? So it could be a longer campaign in that direction.
Or it could be something like there's only one prophesied way to actually be able to destroy it, and the bad guys have stolen it, and they're heading to the place to do the thing.
Yeah.
You need to go get it back, and this is your way in to
Yeah.
your campaign.
I like that. That's cool.
What am I doing? It's my turn?
Whose turn? Your turn?
I'm
It's
last.
my turn. Okay, so everybody picks weapons, and when they don't pick weapons, they pick armor. So what I've done is I pulled out the adventuring gear table, and I'm going to roll a d20, starting at randomly caltrops. I'm going to roll a d20 and count from there. Right?
19.
Fuck, of course I got to count. Fishing tackle.
Oh
I have
God.
magical fishing tackle.
Okay, tell me more about your fishing tackle.
Oh. Fuck.
Does it require attunement?
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be a rare item. So the fishing tackle that you fucking fishing tackle. God damn. The fishing tackle that we have here is going to be it's going to be a specific hook. But the thing about it is, yes, if you attune to it, then it is going to be able to, when it's no, you don't attune to it. You can just rub it in circles in like shallow water, and it will open up a gateway to the plane of water, and that's it.
Shit.
Oh, so you can fish anywhere, is basically what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to open up a plane, and then you dunk
Like
it in
ice
and-
fishing. Yeah, you just dunk it in a hole.
Yeah, but you don't actually end up hooking onto somebody and dragging it out. It just summons the nearest creature that you're thinking of, like that creature type. So if you think Triton, the nearest Triton, Kraken, the nearest Kraken. Right, so. The unique creator of the magic item is going to be the elemental princes of the apocalypse, or the elemental evils. There's one for each one of the elements, clearly. There's one that is like a living flame that's like huge size. This is the end of the campaign for Princes of the Apocalypse. One of them is water-based.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have it, he is the one that created this, and it's meant for him to use.
Yeah.
I might even hand this out at the end of that campaign, because I think you wrap up at level 14. So this seems like a thing.
Yeah.
The interesting detail from its history is the fact that it was stolen by steam methods. They were originally fire methods, but they came and they stole it and they got doused with water. Now they are steam methods.
Nice.
So, and they have given it to a dragon turtle for safekeeping.
Nice.
The minor property that doesn't exist on the table, something new that it has, it's not a quirk, is, the quirk is you smell like fish.
Always.
Always.
Constantly just smell like fish.
If you are attuned to it, you smell like fish.
Yeah, gross.
The minor property is you have advantage on grapple checks as long as you're holding it in one hand.
Yeah.
That's clever.
That barb.
Yeah.
That barb, yeah. Doesn't do damage, but it's going to just catch on someone. So advantage on grapple checks, but not advantage on escape checks. Like, it's meant to hold on.
Yeah.
And I don't see names. Names are either very, very easy or they're very, very inappropriate. I almost said the salty hooker, but it's not going to be that.
No, well.
The salty hooker.
The salty hooker. Do I have Prince of the Apocalypse somewhere? Sure, there we go. What's that guy's name? Oh shit, I opened right to it. Cool.
There you go.
Ol Hydra. So it will be Ol Hydra's wish or something like that because you're summoning creatures from. So
That's fair.
Ol Hydra's summons.
That's cute.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Adorable. Casey, what about you?
Well, okay, so my brain went to
The salty hooker.
the salty hooker.
Always.
That is going to be the name of the pub at the next fishing town.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
so
going to make that the
good.
name of my cafe when I retire.
My sushi restaurant.
So maybe it's because I'm navigating Artificer and just like thinking outside the box, creating different things and adding it in how I see fit. I wanted to create something that would be like the Room of Requirement,
Mm-hmm.
where it and also we were just about to do a one-shot campaign and I decided to do like wild magic because
Oh,
I'm
cool.
like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Whom's to say what happens? So I was thinking something, and like aberration goes well with this, where it's something that you have to keep in a pouch, and you have to maybe do some sort of wisdom check, and when you're reaching in, because as you grab onto it and pull it out, it is either going to be the thing that helps you in whatever's happening, or if you fail your wisdom check or maybe some other kind of check, it can vary depending on the DM. It then doesn't help you at all, but it's an object that can change shape and change need in minor ways to help you. Like it will boost something, or like, you know, it's like that enlarge or reduce or something, and it has a range of options depending on the scenario and the need at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of just like built up as we were talking about different magic items. I'm like, that would be really handy. Something that doesn't necessarily is magical, but doesn't necessarily only have one like purpose and one, it doesn't fulfill one need. It's like the Room of Requirement. It's like, oh, this would be really helpful. And you need to hone in and reach in. And when you pull it out, because of the inheritance of it, it will either give you what you want or it won't.
I like the idea because it forces your players to think about what would help them in this moment.
Yes.
And that's hard for players sometimes, is to figure out what would I need to get past this. And it forces a little bit of creativity on their part.
Especially if it has a rule like it cannot be something that will either harm nor heal a person or a creature, right?
Yeah.
Like shit like that. So you can't pull out a weapon.
No,
but you can pull out a lantern if you don't have dark vision and you're in
It's like, it's something that is a bit of a booster or a bit of a negator, like if you're in combat, or, you know, environmental support. So like it's a lantern or
an umbrella. Or like a, you know, or a grappling hook if you're climbing up the side of a mountain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if you're in like the tundra and you're starting to succumb to the cold, you could potentially try and bring out like fire
goose down jacket.
Like something, but it takes like a check because it's like the mental capacity to. So you would want to give it to somebody who has maybe a higher wisdom or higher intelligence, so that they could pass the check to get what they need. Because if you're not in the right mind frame, you don't get it.
I think it'd be charisma, because charisma is all about personality and willpower.
Maybe, maybe that would work.
That would fit.
So yeah, like if you're wanting a down jacket and then you pull out a goose instead, and it's like, fuck!
Son of a bitch. At least we can eat this.
Yeah, and it would have to be something that, say, like it resets at dawn, or it whatever. Like, you know, whatever you have created and used, it either poofs, disappears, or you use it until there's a long rest and then it resets, or
it's like it has 3 charges. After your 3 charges, it becomes a regular sack.
Yeah, like there's some limitation there, but I like giving variety. I would do a magic item like that.
I like the idea of it being a bag, and when you turn it inside out, it takes whatever shape that you need it to be, and it becomes that item.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with it, you can press the button. There's always a button.
And it flips back and becomes just a pouch.
The bag, yeah. And then you can do it once per day or however many.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And its minor property could be that when you're not using it as its magic item, it is legit a pouch that you can keep your coins in.
It's just a coin purse.
Like,
sorry, let me flip the coin purse out.
Yeah. So when
that's a different thing.
You asked me to be on the episode, Adam.
Yeah. I also binge watched Harry Potter like not that long ago, so I feel like I have the room of requirements. Like, let's make this real.
Man, I need to rewatch Harry Potter. It's one I haven't rewatched in a while.
It's so good.
I've decided to boycott it for the rest of my life.
You know,
I know.
For a lot of reasons, that is very acceptable.
There are good reasons to do that. Yeah. We're not getting into it.
Fuck you. So that pretty much covers most of the rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide, so let's conjure up a brief info break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram or on our subreddit at r/it'samimic. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes, and comments. Engagement like that helps us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
So do you guys have any final thoughts about these magic items, the rules around magic items that the DMG provides? Is it enough?
To be honest, I never really thought of, when I think about homebrewing my own magical items, I never really went to the DMG to figure out how to do that, and I didn't realize that they had tables that you could get inspiration from. I've seen them before, I've used them once in the day, but you don't necessarily homebrew your own magic items that often, and sometimes you do it on the fly as a DM, right? And so I do like the reminder that the tables exist, and the fact that if you want to find even just a branch off or some inspiration, it's a great piece to start with. Right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing you can build from these little quips and quirks and dice rolls that's going to break your game.
Yeah.
Right? And again, if you are worried it's going to break the game, add a limitation to it. It doesn't have charges, will only last until dawn, and then it disappears. Is it a temporary item? You can use a DM, have the ability to control that. Especially if you give someone an item right away that's way too powerful, because a DM can figure out how to break that at some point too. So don't be scared to try different types of magical items with your group. Because to Adam's point, if you give them too many, they'll forget that they have them.
Mm-hmm.
Yar.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes when you're coming up with a final big bad evil guy scenario and that's defeated and it may not necessarily be the end of your campaign, I feel like sometimes you need a big reward and it can be hard to come up with what the hell, okay, what happens? What happens after this? They want to keep going. It's not just that they saved the town. They're going to continue. So what's the reward? And if you're really stuck on what that might be, you could use this as inspiration and it really helps. For me, somebody that needs to have things happen and then build out the backstory, I would like to build out, okay, this is what the big final battle is going to look like. Shit, how can I build out a magic item for that? I can go to these tables and even just look at the options and be like, oh, elemental earth, that makes so much sense. They were underground and doing whatever and fought, and then build it out from there. And then you have a really badass homebrew magic item.
Yeah, very much so.
Guides are great.
I was looking for, I just had a conversation with someone online. I don't remember who it was. And there's too many fucking It's a Mimic media sites for me to check them all now. But I can't find the comprehensive list right now. There are a number of trinkets tables that I use. And this is where I get a lot of my magic items from. And the trinkets are just anything from a broken bottle cap to small, mundane, like a mirror that always shows your reflection smiling. It is kind of magical, but what the fuck are you going to do with that, right? Mm-hmm. I will grab these. There's one in Curse of Strahd. There's one in, and they're themed to the campaign. But there's one in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. There's one that is a little bit shorter. That is in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. There's one in Princes of the Apocalypse. No, Storm King's Thunder. They're around. There's all the Giant's Bags in the latest Bigby book, right? There's all sorts of magic items out there, and I like the mundane shit because I will go to that, or the adventuring gear and say, okay, this thing is what I'm going to be inspired by in the moment. So when you guys start looting shit, and we have so much random crap just falling into our world that I have the luxury of just picking at random and seeing where the fuck this goes. It has worked out so well to just give these interesting, weird little bits and baubles and things and add one tiny thing to it. I randomly rolled and came up with black candles, and we ended up having to light 8 black candles to open a portal to do it. I rolled black candles on one of those tables, and I was like, yeah, good enough. This is what we need. I can make this work. So we don't have to really go to the DMG. These are the epic or the D&D specific items that are like that people think of, right?
Yeah.
These are bags of holdings and potions of healing and scroll of fireball and that kind of shit. That's what's in the DMG. This is where we get our deck of many things. But there should be more shit. Feel free to homebrew, but always homebrew small, because you don't want to take away something big, because that's going to feel bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Unbalanced and feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not every item, if you decide to go with these tables, you need to then roll on every single table to include it.
No, you can
You
pick
know?
like 1 or 3 or whatever of them.
Yeah.
And honestly, I will never roll in those tables. I will use them for inspiration and then do my own thing.
Yeah.
Fair.
Anyway, that's all for this part of our discussion on magic items in D&D 5th edition. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, comment, and review to help push our engagement. And don't forget to subscribe to find future inspirations for your campaigns.
If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, www.itsmimic.com, as well as a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other podcast apps. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits. And don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
So, I have to figure out if I want to buy a MacBook or a tablet for personal use.
MacBook.
Yeah?
The only reason I have a tablet is you're reading shit, and if you're going to do that, just buy a Kindle.
I have a Kindle.
Then you're good. So, no, MacBook. Or laptop, whatever.
No laptop. No. Everything in my house is Apple, so.
Yeah, I have
What?
morphed into that
Yeah.
as well.
Are
yeah.
you guys iPhone users?
I have iPhone, I have
Yeah.
AirPods, I have, like, all my devices in my house are Apple.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I low-key believe that it is people under the age of 20, 22 I guess by this point, and girls that own Apple products.
Yeah.
And like really, really trendy, like a DJ will have Apple products, but like the average guy doesn't.
If you do arts of any kind, you'll have an Apple product.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's just a lot better for art related things.
When I was doing like video editing and stuff, I relied on my iMac.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's. I mean, I could have used Premiere, but
It was the watch that got me
my watch.
fully immersed.
Yeah.
Once
See,
I got an Apple Watch.
I got a watch. It's plugged in over there right now. But I have a smartwatch I got for Christmas. Goes to my Android. Does everything I need it to.
Yeah.
I don't see the.
I know.
Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I just do not get the Apple products.
I love them.
Me
I don't
too.
care what anybody says. Yeah, it was
Are
funny.
you saying
I
farewell to this one?
well, this is my
that
work
what-
one.
Yeah.
So I have to hand this back in, and then I'm getting a desktop, and I want something I can travel with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So this is, I have an iPad Pro.
yeah,
That's what this is.
yeah.
And as much as I love it, because I wanted it to serve as a laptop and a like tablet
you can
style.
carry, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Except I feel like for lots of things, it's not quite like it doesn't work as well as a MacBook.
Got you.
And so when funds serve, I will be getting like a MacBook
You'll be upgrading.
as well.
Okay.
So I have both.
Fair enough.
So if I'm getting either or, get a MacBook.
Yep.
Who's DMing this shit?
I am.
Cool.
Casey, do you have a cold open?
I do.
Casey comes prepared. Oh, my water. I'm unprepared.
I don't have water either, but we're rolling with
Water.
it.
Do you guys want water or
No.
coffee or booze?
If we're gonna make it through the second episode, I will need water. But this will serve me for this one.
All right.
Fair enough.
So this item was once used as part of royal regalia.
Regalia.
I knew it, Adam. I knew it. I've seen it. I'm like, correction.
All right. Well, that pretty much covers most of the rules in the Dungeons and Dragons Master's Guide.
I decided that you should be on this episode.
You chose happiness, Adam.
Oh my god.
All right. So that much. We have one more episode to record
look
after
at
this.
you.
Stop looking at me, Casey.
Don't make eye contact. Don't make eye contact.
So difficult. Whew. We did it.
Yay! That was only mostly inappropriate.
You have an episode about wands, Adam. What did you expect?
Why are you still here? Leave already.